to DJNTV Live with your host, Brian S. Red.
Good evening, and welcome, because tonight you get a double treat.
I wondered what you were doing there. I'm like, what is John doing? It's like a Doublemint gum commercial, you know?
Yeah.
The Doublemint twins. Now there's a
all right.
Yeah, that would be like extra special.
I thought you were just, trying to imitate like a fast delay. You should do like a ping pong delay and do it in stereo, I guess I can't do it in stereo with one mic, but
By the way, folks, we're not real twins. It's just two of us.
It just looks that way.
Yeah.
Two of us were separated at birth. Guess which two?
Separated by birth about 7 or 8 years. Yeah.
So yeah,
it was a long labor.
It would have been a good idea if I would have hit the live stream button a little earlier, but that's okay. We still made it. We're here now on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you for joining us tonight on our Tuesday night with Ben Stowe and Brian S. Red. And tonight, gentlemen, let's dig into it. The whole array speaker system. We played with a variety of different styles and such. Today, Ben, did that video hit today that you released, or was that yesterday? And then today is getting traction.
Went up yesterday.
Okay.
And it's definitely got traction. I posted it in a few groups, and of course, we have subscribers to our YouTube channel and that sort of thing. A few, but not nearly as many as Brian. And I tell you, we were just talking about this before the show aired. Anytime you put a video out there, you can expect comments, thoughts, criticisms, postulations, and some things I don't even know how to define. I don't even know what to say that they are.
And we'll talk about that stuff, or if you guys want to hear that discussion, because we've all got some thoughts on that.
Oh yeah, you're going to want to hear that. It's going to be juicy.
We're going to put that at the end. We're going to talk array to just kind of stay on our topic for those of you guys need to talk your topic. And yeah, so we're going to get into the ranting side later.
Oh wait, you get comments too?
No, never. Not once. No. So, gentlemen, well, first off, Ben, give us kind of a little synopsis of what that video was for those who hadn't had a chance to watch it.
Well, in short, it was just a direct response to a viewer question, maybe a couple. I sort of, if I hear something enough, I'll try to put something together. And people were asking what the effect is, and particularly with regard to these column speakers. And now, of course, people are wondering what the difference is, and that might be a future video. But what the effect is on the sound when you have people on a dance floor. And they're saying, well, will it throw to the back of the room, which, of course, depends on where the back of the room is and a lot of other things. But I thought, in a simple sense, let's just demonstrate the difference between an empty dance floor and a dance floor with people on it. So I was able to hijack a dance class. Some friends of mine are world-renowned dance instructors, and they were kind enough, is really the only word, to allow me to hijack one of their classes. And all of the, they basically had to break this to the class in very short notice. Hey, by the way, we're going to do something a little different tonight. We're going to rock out the pink noise. They were good sports. They actually danced to it. I was really impressed. They just they could do their own thing,
I was sitting at the car dealership today, so I could watch the video, but I couldn't listen to it because it's a waiting room full of people. And I thought that's all I need is, to be blaring that with it. So I was going along, and it's like, how did Ben get a room full of young people to dance in front of this fully lit room? I just assumed that you either had some beverages in the back room or something, or you paid these people to be, because they were there filling your room up for the video. Yeah,
the best part is they actually paid to be there. I mean, they paid for the class. They just got some bonus. But again, and that was some of the things that go into making the video. We're thinking, okay, we're interrupting their world. We're interrupting their time. We need to make this quick. Obviously, in the interest of science, we could have done a lot of things, but there's real world parameters to work around here. If we're going to have 50 willing targets that are going to walk in front of the sound, we have to be respectful of their time and get this done fairly quickly. And so what we did basically is we blasted pink noise into the empty room, and then at the same level, just put people in the room, blasted it again, and had software overlay the two measurements so we could see the difference and see what impacts there were, not just in a aggregate decibel sense, but on a very granular, meticulous level by frequency. I think I had it down to 48ths of an octave or something. It was pretty thinly sliced, so we could really see, okay, what happens, And then I kind of sort of glossed that a little bit, sort of simplified it and said, well, between 1.5K and 1.42, I think it was, but who's counting? And about 8K is where we saw the most meaningful difference. So that was the video, basically saying what happens when you put people in a dance floor. Are you barking, Brian?
I was going to say, Brian's that.
My zombie pajamas. We're gonna keep that a secret.
Those are pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie. Those are pretty awesome.
Yeah, the rest of us are just wearing. But then Brian's got the cool stuff.
I just got a regular polo shirt.
So the room and such you had, it looked like it would have been a room that would have held about 50 people if they had been seated and such. Didn't look like a super huge room, or was there more to the room than what I could see when I
think it was bigger than it looked, because there were I don't know exactly how many dancers there were, but I'm ballparking about 50. And when they were dancing, they there was still room for more, but obviously dancers that are moving around and swinging around and taking up some space. So if you were to go classroom seating, I don't know how many more people would have fit. But it was a pretty active dance floor.
Very much so, yeah.
It was a pretty live room too. It had an acoustic tile ceiling, but the walls were, mirrors and concrete. Ooh. So undoubtedly that had some contributory effect. But here again, we just can't test 30 different rooms, and I had to kind of go with, where we could. And at the end of the day, the results really spoke for themselves. And, we saw that effect and where it's going to be most notable. So
cool. Brian, now that you're back.
Sorry.
So you have been, over the years, you have used traditional horn-loaded speakers, and in the last couple of years, you've been doing more video and more events with more of an array sound system. For those who are wondering, what kind of a difference were you seeing between your horn-loaded when you've been experiencing those at events compared to the array? What have you observed?
Well, from a setup perspective, it seems much quicker and cleaner. So, for a person like me to be able to bring a system in, a full system with subwoofer and tops, you can't beat it. It's compact, portable, the stuff I'm using. So I started with the FPT CS1000. Mm-hmm. That was my first array. Well, that's not actually true. I had a Dawn Audio one. That company no longer exists, but I wasn't impressed. It was nice, but it was a little heavy and cumbersome, and it didn't sounded okay, but there was some ground noise in the thing just by design. But then the CS1000, I really liked that system. It was a little heavy for me, but it was still a step up from doing a sub plus a two-way top. And then I went to the Evolve 50 from Electro Voice. That's very easy to use. It's very easy to carry. From a function point of view, what I do like about it is I don't, and I'm your layman here, by the way. Yeah. Ben is your guy who really understands how this stuff works. I'm just your end user. Okay, I'm the idiot on the phone when tech support gets a call. I'm the idiot calling tech support.
By the way, one of the I know this is the later part of the show, but one of the criticisms of the video was that I didn't make it complicated enough.
Oh, wow.
I sort of snickered because I thought about all the offline conversations I've had with John and Ryan Berger and the people who, are booking me for events, and they're going, take it down, take it down. And I'm like, well,
down, Spock. Come on.
That's funny.
So,
or Yoda or whoever you want to be.
I'll go with Darth Vader, but thanks. Anyway.
Well, Darth Vader is just kind of a mean guy. I don't.
No, he's a good guy in the end.
Misunderstood.
Redeemed by love.
He was misunderstood.
And an asshole in between. So, whatever. But anyway.
If the shoe fits.
As I was saying, the dispersion is wonderful. That's what I like about it. I don't seem to have to push the system as hard to get full sound in a room. And one thing that I was really concerned about when I first went array was all the Bose people really were I guess cheerleaders for the arrays early on.
Oh yeah.
Because they felt like that it was even sound throughout the whole room. And I never wanted even sound throughout the whole room. What I wanted was a dance floor hotspot and conversation areas as you went further back into the room. So the Bose, just by the criticisms people had on it for that, and it was positive criticism, it just wasn't for me because I don't want that. But I have found that the systems that I'm using, I do indeed have hotspots, and I do indeed have conversation areas further back into the room. The other real cool thing is when you're doing something like a wedding, for instance, and it's dinner time, and sometimes you're in a horseshoe shaped seating arrangement where you have people next to you, and they're coming along the dance floor. There's people in front of you, and then along the other side. So there's people kind of over here. With a traditional 2-way or 3-way PA system, there's always someone who's complaining about, I can't hear,
right?
Because they're over here. And
as a little harsher too, particularly horns, can be.
Yeah, the honking. But my to finish my point, what I was saying is that the people over here can now hear me with the array because the dispersion is wider on most of these systems. As Ben will tell you, a 2-way top system will give you roughly a 90-degree dispersion. I mean, give or take a little bit. So think of it like half a circle, kind of spraying into a room, where an array might go 110, 120 on you sometimes. So it's kind of coming back a little bit and to the side, which is exactly what you want for those situations where people can't hear you over here. And Ben mentioned the honking too. I hate a system that honks. I can't stand it. And people always look at me like I'm insane, but on my mixing boards on a 3-band graphic equalizer, where you've got high, mid, and low, I bring the mid down because my ears are so incredibly sensitive to that mid range. It actually hurts.
Well, that's not uncommon, Brian. And obviously with a 3-band EQ, you're looking at fairly large swaths of the frequency here. If you have a sweepable mid, you could kind of dial that in a little bit. And I think what you'd probably find is it's somewhere in that 2 to 2.5K is where that really bothers you, and that's really normal actually. So
you'll have to send me that 2.5K, or I'll come back and watch the video because I'll forget it. I know the Evolve 50 has the sweeping mids.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
Yeah, that's right.
So, just try that maybe. I will. Now, again, there's no hard and fast rule, but I find myself pulling that out a lot in live mixes because you can get substantially louder without pinning people to the floor because it's not the overall loudness of a system. It's those grating frequencies where you start crawling under the table and going, oh, man, I just can't deal,
See, when I go to like a concert, all right, it doesn't bother me. I'm enjoying it. It sounds good, like a real concert. I'm not talking about.
Well, hopefully, somebody like me has done their job to make sure that you do.
Yeah, exactly.
We can make it incredibly loud, very high SPL levels, but it doesn't sound piercing.
What I was getting at is that doesn't bother me. But when I, for instance, go to the state fair and I go to Chuck's barbecue stage and Dave, the sound guy's back there, who's in his 50s, and he used to be a roadie for Marshall Tucker or something. And he's
I've worked for Marshall Tucker band. You're making a lot of stereotypes,
and it hurts.
Marshall Tucker band guys are great, by the way.
It hurts. I didn't say he was a sound guy for Marshall Tucker. I said he was a roadie.
I know these
for Marshall Tucker.
These guys, they're great guys. What
I'm trying to say is that he's long in the tooth.
I got you.
He's been around for a while. He's been around loud music for a long time, and now he's freaking deaf, and he thinks it sounds great. But it sounds like crap to me and everybody else. It hurts.
Well, that's a real thing too, and as I do more shows, I try to be mindful. I use software to sort of balance what I'm hearing, sort of checks and balances, because certainly we have socioacousis, which is the loss of hearing due to exposure to loud sounds, and continued sound in society specifically, but. Obviously for sound people, that's a casualty of our careers.
Yeah.
And certainly if the sound guy feels like the mix is missing some of that, he's going to put more in or not take as much out. So that's a real thing. That's
what I was getting at. Wasn't
jump on
Marshall Tucker. I was born a rambling man, trying to make a living and doing the best I can.
That's all I'm saying. They're really nice guys. One of the chillest crews I ever worked with. I think I spent more time playing baseball than working. Anyway, Yeah, Brian, you're right on the money there. There's no doubt about it. So 2 to 2.5K, take a look in there. That's one of those places, really, even up to 4K. Obviously it's going to depend on the room and it's going to depend on the system, but those are areas you find a lot of sensitivity in human hearing, not coincidentally, by the way, because that's kind of right in the meat of the human vocal range. So it's like our hearing is somewhat tuned to the human voice, which makes sense because that is one of the primary ways we communicate with each other as a species.
Now, someone in the room mentioned that I'm going to be there sooner than I think, or I'll be there eventually or whatever. Maybe, maybe not. I'm 47 years old. Now, my father was very hard of hearing. He was always hard of hearing. And a lot of that had to do with his exposure to machinery and factory. And also, he was a truck driver back in the 50s, and those stacks were right behind the driver's seat. And he drove with the window down and that wind blowing in the ear. So his left ear was gone. I called it trucker ear is what I called it. So I always sat on his right to speak to him. And I would see people try to talk into his left ear. I'm like, stop. He can hear nothing you're saying. You got to talk into
on his other side,
his right ear. I've always been really sensitive to high pitched sounds, even sometimes women's voices. I have a very hard no, it's like Blanca's voice is very soothing to me.
Can we cut to commercial?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's very soothing. Anything she says is very soothing. Sometimes my mom, when she gets
nice save, because she's just off camera looking at you, I'm sure.
No, it's true. I love her voice. But my mom sometimes when she starts yelling and screaming, it gets some of those higher I don't know, it's painful and it puts my teeth on edge and I don't like it. When I was a kid, my brother is not a sound guy at all. But one thing he always did on his car stereos was he always did that mid cut. So I had gotten the habit of doing it. And then I understood why he did it, because those high pitched sounds bother him too. So
there's some other science to that too, by the way. Goes back to some work of some Bell Labs scientists. I think they worked for Bell Labs in like the 30s or something, but it was Fletcher and Munson, and there's been adaptations of their work and it's been clarified, and they were sort of found to be kind of fundamentally right. But the bottom line is they came up with what was called the equal loudness curve, which said that we are less sensitive to low frequency and high frequency sounds, and that's why a lot of times you see the smiley face EQ is people are sort of trying to boost that. It's not the right way to EQ, by the way. That's another show, but we've done that show. But that's why you see that. And basically the loudness button on a stereo was sort of it was kind of a boost in the low and the high, or you could fundamentally call it a cut in the mid. And EQ is basically just a volume control, to quote my friend Doug Gould. Something I wanted to add about back to the arrays. I mean, first of all, you're 100% right. I think in that more often than not, they tend to be smoother. One of the really cool things, of course, about the Evolve is it uses waveguides over those drivers. And that's why we see the smoothness extended through the width of the pattern. But you mentioned setup, and I didn't even think to mention that. So here we are interrupting these dancers' lives to shoot this sort of impromptu video, and it really was very impromptu. It was like, we decided at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon we're going to do it, and at 7 o'clock at night we're there. I had both Evolves set up in probably 5 minutes, and I don't think, I mean 2 Evolves and a mixing board and test equipment probably set up in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I was like, man, why can't my load-ins be like this? I made 2 trips from the truck into the building, total test equipment, Evolves, mixing board, everything. I mean, I think the camera guy had it almost as bad as me. Sure.
No, it's
so that was a nice thing.
really nice setup for mobile guys. Now,
in the right application, because they're not the end all save all. That physics
right. If I'm going to do a 500-600 kid school dance, we're not going to even look at these. We're going to go for the traditional system that just screams and throws, and there you go. But for anybody doing the smaller events, and when I say smaller, I'm talking about the weddings, maybe 150 to 250 people, perhaps. Some people say 250 is pushing it. I've done very well with 275.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that number for a second. Somebody posted this on a forum, and I wish I could remember who it was, because I want to give them credit. I want to give them props, because they said the obvious, which surprisingly none of us really thought about. And the comment was just in time because I had amazing context. My sister got married on Saturday. And so I was able to be a guest, and I was able to enjoy the moment, but also evaluate it scientifically, which it's hard to turn it off. Well, some people dance, some people evaluate dancers on a dance floor, in scientifically, but there were several hundred people at her wedding. She's surprisingly popular as her older brother. I never understood that, but I said it was siblings, right? But it turns out she has a lot of friends. I was blown away.
Right.
Anyway, so all right, all kidding aside, but there were hundreds of people there. But in reality, there were probably at most 50 or 60 on the dance floor. And that's exactly what this person said. And by the way, you can think what you want about the DJ, but I'll tell you right now, there wasn't room for any more. Most dance floors are 30, 40 feet square. And you're moving around and bopping and rocking and doing that sort of thing. They take up space. It was adequately full, to say the very least.
Yes.
You couldn't get more people on there, but you're not going for a nightclub scene here. And so, 200, 300 person wedding, but if it really, we're only worried about the dance floor. Like you said, there's hot spots. And one of the things that I really enjoyed, while I am a lover of music, is I enjoyed seeing family that I hadn't seen in a while. I enjoyed visiting with people. I enjoyed visiting with friends, making new friends, that sort of thing. So it was nice to not have to scream over the music.
Sure.
Right.
Saw some people that I hadn't seen in 30 years. And I actually was sitting there thinking how great the DJ was doing and how great it sounded. And he wasn't using a column speaker, but that isn't really the point.
Right.
He had a well-tuned system, tops and subs, and it was smooth and it sounded good and it was comfortably loud, but it wasn't too much. And I thought, I'm going to take a look and just sort of validate with numbers what I'm hearing. And he was in the mid 90s, low to mid 90s, and it was plenty loud.
Right.
Now, some people out there are going, oh no, that's not loud enough. You got to be.
Yeah.
Hey, listen. Okay. First of all, I'm not telling you what level you should run at. Second of all, I'm not a prude because, I mix arena shows. All right. I put out sound pressure levels most of you just dream about. All right. But in this time and place, that was perfect. Mid 90s was,
right. Yes, absolutely. And this is the kind of stuff that I'm finding at my events too, because I've said this about lighting. I've said it about sound. Whenever I see a DJ with a system that they think sounds fantastic and they think the light show looks fantastic, I've said to them, just the simplest thing: step out from behind your booth once in a while, go out on that dance floor, go to the back room, go to the bar and listen and look and see what you see and hear what you hear and see if this is something that you feel like your clients would appreciate as well. And a lot of people
through your clients' eyes, there were a lot of young kids.
Empathy.
A lot of my sister's friends are married and have young kids, and my, younger kids were there. And, and again, I'm not a prude. I love loud music. I got my studio system set up here. I rock out before the show. John knows when I log on, I have to turn the music off because, my son made me a topic in his school the other day when they were talking about hearing loss. He's like, yeah, my dad really rocks music, all right. But if it was 110 dB, 105 dB on the dance floor, we would have left. We would have just said, this is
too much.
Yeah, I don't want to be there right now.
Let alone getting your fillings knocked out of your head by bass hits at the back of the room.
Yes.
Again,
time and place.
Right.
For me, that's my work. And I think but it depends on the concert too.
Right. Now a concert or even a smooth dance is a very different animal than a wedding reception or a
absolutely.
corporate. Yeah,
absolutely. Hailstorm, Stone Sour, that's much different than the Marshall Tucker concert, like you mentioned. Those audiences have different levels of expectation. Yeah. You have to mix appropriately. And I think the same thing here, is sort of know your client and know the time. And anyway, in the moral of this story, I think what we're saying is these column speakers are more than adequate for many events.
Right.
But they are not the end all save all. And if you want that filling, rattling sound, and sometimes you need it,
right. You do.
Listen, if you're doing a prom for, 1,000 kids, man, you're going to want 4, 6 double 18s. I mean, let her buck, go nuts, get yourself, eight or so ETXs, and
You only need a pair. Don't listen to this guy. He's just trying to make you buy more speakers.
Physics is a lie.
And you'll be fine. Trust me.
Oh, listen, I've said it before. If we could get away with hauling less stuff in to accomplish a gig, trust me, I would. I'm not a fan of loading semis. So,
but no, it's for, you know, it's an application thing for weddings, for corporate events. Yeah, fantastic. For the arrays, but you know, there are other events where you want something different. But yeah, they're cool. I've also really enjoyed the LD Systems 95 Go a lot. That thing is the bomb.
For the buck, yeah, it's very. But you know, here again, it doesn't hold a candle to the Evolve, nor should it, nor would it. It's half the price. You know, and of course, the Maui 5 Go is a little more expensive than that because it has the lithium-ion battery in there.
Right.
But now we're talking about a battery, which we have to sort of remove from the sound equation. That's an ancillary expense.
Well,
so
I have to go.
Small, lightweight system that does a job beautifully for what it's intended to do.
Right. Now, I've been using it in the shop for a month while I'm working on my car.
It's also good for that.
And my mom comes out there every day and just sits. And she says, I'm here for the music. And neighbors come over. And when my neighbors come over, I don't say anything, but they look at it and they ask questions. Do you know how many civilians I know personally who own those now because they've seen it in the shop or they've heard it at my house?
But give them our website.
I mean, there's several that have bought it for whatever, you know, for entertaining, for home audio, for watching movies, or, you know, going to the park or whatever, or going on a boat. It's a wonderful little system. No, I wouldn't recommend it for mains. Of course not. Not for
neither would LD system.
Reception, but I would. I did a picnic for a family one time. It was wonderful. It was enough. It was probably 30, 40 people hanging out, having some food. It was a graduation party, but it was very chill and it was great background music. It filled the yard wonderfully. And that speaker, by the way, I will say that it acts, and Ben could tell you why. I'll just tell you what it does. It acts very different outdoors than it does indoors. Outdoors, that thing just goes forever. Indoors, it's fine, but it's very impressive outdoors. If you're trying to fill a large space or someone's yard or whatever, it's very impressive. So I like that thing too. I use it for anything for wedding ceremonies to cocktail to the small party.
And by the way, I just want to tell, I feel like I'm a little bit amped up today. That's two parts. One, it's exciting to get to hang out with Brian and do an open forum. Obviously,
You're too kind.
But two, obviously the commentary thing in the video, which I know we're getting into in the second half. So viewers, if I seem a little bit more on edge, I guess I am. I've been responding to hundreds of messages throughout the last 18 hours. And so just if I seem a little more intense, I'm just trying to keep up with y'all. That's all.
I think this is the part where I become the coach.
Yeah.
Yes. We're not there yet, though.
Well, it's 9:30.
Well, I wanted to finish with one last thought because we have.
Fine, go ahead.
We have some arrays that are more of a plastic type top cabinet, and we have some that are more of a wood type cabinet. Our friends at RCF, as an example, have the original Evox that were wood, and then they've come out with the J series, which is a plastic cabinet. Ben, in the layman's terms, will we be able to hear a difference between those two, do you think? And if so, what kind of a differences would we have between a wood top in an array and a plastic top in an array?
In a point source box, it's more meaningful than in an array. And the reason is when we look at the drivers and the frequencies they're reproducing, we're talking like 3, maybe 4-inch drivers. It's not near as critical. I think we see a lot of other design considerations that are a lot more prevalent, and one of those being waveguides, for example. So everything has to be looked at as a system, and certainly we've measured using smart software, for example, the Evox, which is a great system. We've measured the FBT, which is a great system. We've measured the Evolve, which is a great system. We've measured these it's difficult to pinpoint between one or the other to say, oh, well, this is probably a characteristic of this being wood versus this being plastic. Because again, the frequencies being reproduced by those drivers and the resonant properties of that box aren't nearly as important as a sub. And that's where it's very notable, in fact, that the Evolve sub is wood. Evie said, there's no way we could make that sub plastic and make it work. So the sub is wood, and the pole is metal and the top is composite, So I guess the short answer is I doubt that it's very meaningful, really, to be honest with you.
Not on that. When you said point source, for dumb people like me, what does that mean?
That is your typical two-way horn over driver. And there, of course, you've got a break frequency between that horn and the driver of, let's say it's a 15, it's probably around 900, 910, 930 is the break frequency between the horn and the driver. Crossover point obviously is above that. And we're talking about the beaming properties and, which driver is making what frequencies. And that LF woofer, that thing could be regarded as a full range. That LF could be going down to, 40, maybe 30 even. So that wood box is going to be a lot more important for the warmth of that.
Right. And obviously sub. Yeah. Anything that produces either sub or mid bass.
I sort of rambled through like 8 different audio engineering things all at once there to basically come to that conclusion. So again, I apologize if you didn't follow that. Don't worry, I didn't either. And I said it, but it all made sense in my mind.
Well, because you're really smart.
Ben, can you explain the waveguide?
I'm just trying to make it more complicated. It's a viewer request.
Yes, you're trying to tone it up a little bit. Nice. Sean was asking about the waveguides, and we didn't define what those were, and there's people who might not be familiar with that because we've talked about that in past shows and such, but I don't know if we've actually broken it down and said this is exactly what it is.
Man, I feel like I have one here somewhere in my den. Oh, good luck finding it though in time for the show. But
no, we didn't give you any notice on.
No, by the time I found it, the show would be over. So let's break it down. Waveguides are typically plastic or metal, and they are devices that use either a series of pins or slots or grooves or a number of things like that. But the fundamental purpose, and this is going to be disappointing, it's so simple. The fundamental purpose is to guide the wave. It's what it does. And so, for example, you see this in some of the touring line array boxes, like the X2s that I own and I love. They have a 12-inch, LF driver in them. They have ports on the sides that allow the low frequency sounds to really mature, but they also have a waveguide in front, which makes that 12 behave like smaller mid-band drivers. And so that's one example of how those waveguides are used. On the Evolve, another example where we're taking that waveguide and putting it over those drivers to, again, apologies for saying it so simply, but to guide the wave. And that's why when we measured the Evolve right on axis, and then we went out to the extreme of 120 degrees, we said, wow, it really sounds the same on the edge as it does straight on. Mm-hmm. And the same spectral content is there. And if you listen to a lot of other speakers, you'll notice that's not the case.
With 90-degree dispersion speakers, that is not the case at all.
Right. And even
right in front of it, it sounds best to me. If you're to the side, even, let's say, I don't know, let's say you're at 70 degrees, it's not as nice.
So that's the purpose and the benefit of a waveguide. It's one of the things that it accomplishes. Hopefully that helped.
No, that's good. That's good. I think that covered that for.
Really wish I could find one. I know as soon as we're done with the show, I'm going to turn around and it'll be there.
Right there.
But listen, viewers, if you could see the rest of this room, my video den here, which you never will, by the way, it is. It probably lives up to all the mad scientist hype that you might be thinking about. There are destroyed woofers. There are destroyed diaphragms that slammed into phase plugs. There are circuit boards and testers, and it's just an awesome place to come hang out. And there's Star Wars. There's Star Wars. But unfortunately, it's organized about as well as my bedroom when I was a child. So the waveguide is probably somewhere in that corner, but could be in that one. I'm afraid to dig. I haven't had my rabies shot in a while, so
I'll just stay where it's safe, right in front of the camera. Oh. Well, gang, that's going to pretty much wrap up our talk about arrays. If you have any questions about these, you can put those down in the comment section down below, or you can reach out. You can go out to the Ask Ben Stowe and Friends, or Ask Ben Stowe. I'm not even sure what the name of the group is anymore. Or just ask weird people.
I think it's Ben Stowe and Friends.
Ben Stowe and Friends. There's a group out there on Facebook. You can just search Ben Stowe and you'll find it as pops up as a group. And that's a great spot.
Ben's sister's like, Ben has friends?
Yeah, she has no idea. She doesn't believe it either. So, you know, I mean, she's the youngest, I'm the oldest, and that's you know, it seems natural, right? You know, my mom said it was great that we were so far apart in age because we are so much alike in so many ways. We probably, one of us wouldn't have survived if we had, and it probably would have been me that met my imminent demise. She's pretty tough. But by the way, in the second half, John, maybe we'll talk about why that group's name changed so many times, because I think it's kind of a fun story, I guess, as to why the Facebook group is now called Ben Stowe and Friends. I didn't even make the group. Let's start with that.
We'll jump to that. What we're going to do is we're going to put a close here, and then we'll come right back. So we're going to be back in about 15 seconds, which is not long enough for anyone to do anything what he's thinking about doing. I can see who I'm talking about right now. Not enough time. But we'll be back in about 15 seconds. I want to put this close point there, so that way if we need to edit back to it, we have it on YouTube. So we'll be back in about 20 seconds. All right, this would be the bonus round. That's right, where all your questions are going to be completely ignored because we are just tired of comments.
No, I like questions. I like the questions.
Oh, questions are one thing. Comments, okay, maybe we don't. We're not tired of comments. But
you know what? Honestly, let's just say this about comments. So
leave them, by the way, in this video.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're
feel free to leave comments. I think you know what we're saying, and if not, you will in a minute. Trust me. We love hearing from you. There's only reason that we do these things is because of the viewers. I mean, what's the point of making a video if nobody watches it? But remember the show Mythbusters?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, remember when Adam and Jamie retired and went off the air? And they were looking for new hosts for the rebirth of Mythbusters. They're looking for a new crew.
Okay.
I was encouraged to audition. I was approached and said, you should audition.
Sure.
They're looking for geeky people who don't mind blowing themselves up. And I said, oh, well, that's me. I didn't even follow through with an audition or any of that because, you know, I knew what would happen. And that is, you know, when you're exposed on that macro level to millions of viewers, I could see it in several episodes with Jamie and Adam, their frustration at, you know, how they go through this whole process scientifically and people just come up with some of the darndest things. And you're like, you're kidding me. You know, I mean, it was, I think, almost a thankless task. And they were obviously making, you know, pretty good living doing that. So I think that's the kind of comments that I'm talking about, where you're, you know, where people are, you know, are saying, well, you should have tested 20 different speakers, you know, and I'm like, but what about the dancers? You know, like, I was invading their time to shoot this video for you, you know, at no cost to the viewer. And again, I love teaching and I love sharing and I love helping, but there has to be some boundaries here, you know? And I think it's, and I'm just on a rant and I'm sorry, you know, but I think it's one thing if it's in the interest of learning and in the interest of science and people are saying, you know, I'd be interested in doing something. Maybe I could shoot a video. Awesome. I'm not a prideful person. But when it's purely negative and, you know, much of it comes across as an attack. And a lot of that stuff is sent privately, which tells me these people kind of know it's an attack. They don't want to put it out publicly. You know, it just, you know, you're kind of like, really, you know, I mean, goodness sakes, guys like Brian has produced thousands of hours of video. I don't know how many, you know, I mean, gosh, John, just you and I alone have done 136 shows. And you think, but, you know, you just try to remind yourself that there's, you know, 99.5% of the people that are out there that are viewers are benefiting and they're enjoying it. And you know, they're their thoughts, comments, and whatnot are constructive, and you sort of try to shrug off the the others. But I do want to thank the people who had the snarky negative comments, because I had a really good workout this morning. So thank you for that. I got my cardio. I got my reps in, thanks to you. So,
well, you know what? When I think about that kind of stuff, a couple things. I got a lot I can say about this, and I try my best to not let it bother me at all.
It's hard though, because we put ourselves into what we do. Mm-hmm. We're not paid actors. We're not characters. We're real people who do this because we enjoy it. And so it's hard when you really genuinely care about an industry, as I know you do, and I do. It's hard not to internalize those things. It is.
It is what it is, though. I mean, you get a lot more love than hate, so you're okay. I mean, if you think about it, who, just off the top of your head, or maybe put a little thought into this, who would have been the most beloved or the most popular television host of all time?
Oh boy. Beloved television host?
The one that was the most popular, the most watched, who would that have been? The most groundbreaking? Who was?
Boy, I could think
my vote goes to Oprah Winfrey. No.
Okay.
I'm not saying that I'm an Oprah fan. I'm just suggesting that she's had the most successful talk show ever.
Yeah.
She had a nice long run. Okay. People love Oprah Winfrey. Can you imagine if there was a little, like a text section at the bottom where there were going to be live chat comments on the Oprah Winfrey show every day, the kind of things you would have seen? Can you imagine? Oprah Winfrey is gotta be one of the most highest paid entertainers of all time. Mm-hmm. She's got an empire still with the magazine and network, and who knows what else she's gonna end up doing. But yeah, as loved as she is, got a lot of hate too. A lot of hate.
No doubt.
And a lot more love than hate.
Yeah, and undoubtedly, like I said, again, that macro scale, undoubtedly she's endured far more criticism than you know.
And she's a badass about it. Do you ever see her complaining? Remember when she would get fat and then she'd get skinny, then she'd get fat again? And there were critics. I mean, they were making fun of her on late night TV, and she's a badass. She didn't let it bother her at all. She never said a word about it.
Well, bless her heart. That's
how we got to be, man. I mean,
I don't want to be Oprah though. I just want to be a good technician who helps people.
Yeah.
It sounds cliche, and I'm not thin skinned, and like you say, it's difficult not to let those things bother you. I think, it's, it doesn't really ruin my day. I spend a lot of time responding to the comments that I thought were, worth responding to, and really tried to take all of those at face value and engage, and understand that people were engaging in dialogue about the video. That stuff, I'm totally cool with that. And some people, are making requests, unrealistic as they might be, but they're genuine. They're saying, well, what if, and sometimes you can extract that and say, well, I can't do that. It's just a time or expense thing, but I could do this. And so there's already some ideas for things. And John, you and I certainly get topic ideas from that.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's a totally different thing, and by the way, if you left a comment on one of the posts or the video and I didn't see it and I didn't respond to it, it doesn't mean I think your comment's not worthwhile. I probably just didn't see it.
Yeah.
It's damn shame too, because it seems
I was also dealing with a lot of shenanigans, the haters come out,
Well, what's your percentage? I mean, when I look at my videos and I look at the thumbs up, thumbs down, so I
think it was all thumbs up on the video.
I got 160 thumbs up and 3 thumbs down.
Right.
If we did the law of percentages here and I was getting graded on this in school, it would still be an A+. I mean, come on,
That's great perspective, Brian.
That's what it is. That's the reality of it. There's always going to be somebody who's going to say something stupid. Now, we're all of the same generation, because we're not the same age. I'm falling in the middle of these two guys. But we're all of the generation of public television. And we're all of the generation of Mr. Rogers. Now, who of the three of us, who enjoyed Mr. Rogers as a young child?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm still a fan.
Mm-hmm.
I never could stand the guy. He made me nervous. I would watch Sesame Street. If they would sing a song, I would turn it down. When they were done singing the song, I'd turn it back up. And as soon as Mr. Rogers came on, I'd turn that shit off because he made me nervous. I found him condescending.
Really?
He was too slow. But and I may have said something not too nice about Mr. Rogers as a child. I may have.
I liked him better as I got older. I'll say that. I mean, I liked him as a kid, but I like him more. I think even now, you look back.
I so admire him now
through the eyes of an adult, and you say, "Man, this guy was taking on hard topics, and he was doing so boldly."
Yes,
while being meek.
Yes, amazing guy.
Yeah,
and
but I liked him as a kid. I cared about quirky. He connected with kids. You know, I mean,
he didn't connect with me. He missed it with me. But this is my point exactly. Everybody loved Mr. Rogers. I think he's a great guy now, but as a child, I found him, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but he made me uncomfortable.
Yeah,
sure. I don't know why he made me uncomfortable, but he did. He was talking slow, and I just was like, come on, dude. I couldn't do it. I did not have the attention span for Mr. Rogers. Even
I guess the difference that I would say here, and maybe I'm missing. I mean, I think I got your point, and it's
you got my point.
But you also didn't sit down with a crayon and a piece of paper and write him hate mail.
No, I didn't know that was an option. And writing to me was
you didn't mail him a bag of dog poo or something and say,
if I would have been smart enough to write as a child, as a young child, I may have. So
maybe you should have listened to Sesame Street more.
Yeah, you should have left the audio up on the
do something to hype this up a little bit. But no, I mean,
Brian, I love you. You know that.
No. What I'm saying is, I love Fred Rogers, and
he loves you too.
The reason I brought this up was kind of twofold. First of all, although you two loved him as a child, I couldn't stand his ass. All right, but I like him as an adult. We all agree that he's a good guy. Second reason I'm going to bring this up is because
I'm smiling so hard my face hurts. I look forward to this show all day. Oh, Brian.
Early on, when I started making videos, somebody said something to me, and it stuck with me. And it was a user, a viewer, I should say, left nice comments. They said, "You are the Mr. Rogers of the DJ world." And I thought about that. I'm like, what is he talking about? Okay, this is what he's talking about. I'm trying to be understanding, no matter where you're coming from, no matter what.
Daniel Tiger, then, or what am I? I mean, just wondering.
Yeah. Well, no matter what your level is, if you come at me, the car, okay, right, that I've been working on, I'm involved in the Mustang forums now, and I'm just kind of trying to absorb it all. And I'm asking questions because I have questions. Somebody came in there the other day, and they said, "Look, I know this is a really dumb question, but guy never had a car that's 54 years old before. Says, I need to, take the rims and tires off of my car. Where do I jack it up at?" This guy got hammered, just hammered by people. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. On any car built since this guy's been alive, there's been a cross member on the bottom of it where you can just pull your jack it up right from the middle. The whole front end comes up and you can take both tires off. That's just how it works. But on an old car like that, there's no cross member. You got to go on the subframe behind the tire. He doesn't know. And he's getting just mutilated by these asshole people in this group. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a minute. He's got a question. Why can't he ask it? It's a real question.
Isn't that what forums are for?
Well, yeah, but everybody was like, no. Well, you should know this, you stupid. Well, hold on a minute.
I'm glad to hear that the DJs don't have the monopoly on abusing members on forums.
No. This is just a cross section.
But it doesn't make it any better, in my opinion. I still think we can do better.
The good news is, the really good news is, and this is something that you got to think about, this is the minority of the people. This is the minority. If the majority of these people were being like this, you need to start examining yourself and think about what you're doing wrong. If
well, and goodness help you need help, right?
If it's a small minority, you're fine. But the unfortunate part, Ben, and you're experiencing this right now, and this is what I try to avoid, is that whole squeaky wheel gets the grease crap. Because you know what? I got better things to do than to argue with somebody who's got some stupid thing to say that isn't helpful, isn't inspiring, isn't constructive. I could debate with this person in messages or whatever forever, but that's taken away from time that I could be doing something else to help somebody. And,
well, yeah, and 9 times out of 10, I think those people aren't really interested in learning or growing from the experience. That, you know, and you know, there's no positive outcome there. Whereas I think you're right. The majority, the overwhelming majority,
right,
are people who are looking to learn and to grow.
As long as you get more love than hate, you won. When you start getting more hate than love, you need to start examining yourself and find out.
Yeah, no, it's 99.9%. I really shouldn't complain. I guess
then you're Oprah Winfrey, dude. You're a rock star, and you got nothing to worry about. Shut up and make your cool videos because we appreciate it.
This is okay. Thanks for that, Brian, and I appreciate the affirmation. But I didn't really come for affirmation or comfort.
I know. I'm just giving you.
I really more came to call out the haters. I came to sort of say, you know, this is not a chance for me to evaluate myself. It's a chance for them to evaluate their self, to say, what in the world drives you? What in the world, you know, makes you sit down and you know, write that letter?
Is that a rhetorical question? Because
really, it is. It is rhetorical. And, you know, I mean, I'm sure some will answer the question for me. I'm sure some of the answers are going to my inbox right now. But, you know, the point is, it's not about me. You're right. It's about them to say, why, what is it that bothers you so much or offends you or incenses you, or what is going on that makes you feel like you have to write somebody, maybe somebody you don't even know. I mean, listen, it's a totally different thing. If my mom wants to sit me down and read me the riot act, I'm going to listen. She's my mom, you know, and I'm going to believe that there's merit behind that.
Right.
But, you know, like, you know, you didn't know Fred Rogers and you didn't like him yet. Like I said, you didn't sit down and craft a nasty letter or email. Or, of course,
no, it was 4. I couldn't write, but yeah.
But the thought probably didn't cross your mind either. You just turned it off.
Yeah. I don't want to, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
But it happens. I mean, this car that I keep going back to, because it's what I've been doing this summer. It's just where I'm at right now for personal reasons. I've been building this car. I've had a lot of help. A lot of people have stepped in because they wanted to help. It's kind of a family project thing. It means a lot of people understand that. And I had a guy, I did his wedding, DJ'd his wedding 25 years ago. He did my brakes. He did a wonderful job. But aside from him, I've had a lot of other people step in to help. First guy I had come in to help, I had to redo everything he did. He put my fuel pump in upside down, for instance. Upside down. And this is the guy who knows cars. I had to fix that. He also put my sending unit gasket in incorrectly. I had to fix that. The carburetor wasn't built right. I had to replace that. I had a guy come in and... yeah, I won't even go there. I mean, anybody who's worked on this, I've had to redo everything that anyone's done to my car except the guy who did the brakes. Everything else I've had to redone. So I can probably say, aside from the brakes, I've built this car myself. I appreciate the help, but a lot of these people have one thing in common. Not all of them, but some of them have this thing. It's this personality trait that so many people have. They say they know something even if they don't. No,
those who know the least know it the loudest.
I really appreciate the intent and the intention here that I'll figure it out. I appreciate that. But if you don't have it figured out, don't act like you know it. You know, because what I'm going to do is say, oh yeah, this guy really knows what he's talking about. He's going to go ahead and do this thing. And in the meantime, I know more about it than he does, and I'm watching him make mistakes. Well, what did you do that for? Mm-hmm. Well, I'm like, no, you don't do it like that. You do it like this. Because if you don't, you're gonna have problems. Oh, it'll be fine. Boy, you got a lot of confidence. I appreciate that confidence. Let's see what happens.
I still put those people in a different category. I still put those people in a different category because wrong or not, they still have good intentions.
They do. And you know what? Maybe some of these people making these comments do too. And you may look at me and say, no, they're just being haters. I think a lot of stuff gets lost in translation.
Yeah, I would agree.
On social media.
Yep.
Jesus, Chad Hardwick. You know who he is? No, Hardwick. What's his name? Hardwick. What was his website? Nerdist.
Oh yeah, I know Nerdist.
Yeah, the guy who started Nerdist. I watched a show with him. He was actually on Bill Maher. I think it was a year or two ago, and he was saying how, we need to reach out with understanding first before we lash out, especially on social media, because sometimes, you make a post and say, "Oh, have a nice day," and somebody's like, "Double F you," and you're like, "Wait a minute, how did we get here?" We can yell back at them right away, or we can say, "Hold on a minute, what happened here? Did I say something that upset you? Can we talk about this?" So if you reach out with understanding before you lash out, and in most cases, things are going to work out. There have been so many instances. And there are people who are probably in this room right now. In fact, I know there's a guy in this room right now. Our first interaction was a negative one. Something he had said to me was just not cool. It rubbed me wrong, and it was not crafted well, and it was meant as almost an attack. But we worked it out because I did what Chad Hardwick's talking about, which is reach out with some understanding. And instead of just diving on this guy and attacking him, I'm like, okay, hold on a minute. How did we get here? Let's talk about this. It all worked out.
Well, I think I'm pretty restrained. Now others might disagree, but I think I'm pretty restrained, and I try to always give people the benefit of the doubt. There's I believe it's Hanlon's razor. This is Occam's razor, Hanlon's razor. Yeah, never attribute to malice that which can be adequately explained by stupidity.
Chris Hardwick, that's his name. Sorry.
And I'm not saying that people are stupid, but the point is there that there's, we can assume that people are malicious, or maybe, we just read them wrong,
lost in translation is.
Yeah. I'm an ardent defender of what I believe to be the truth. I'm an ardent defender of bettering the industry and education and growth. And you're right. Thousands of people, and I have positive interactions, and, maybe hoping for 100% is too much.
It is.
But I think that's the intention, though, is to say, look, even the people who are haters, the reason that I read their comments is because I want them to improve too. I want to help them too. And I'm okay if they don't. I'm in a good place personally. It's not that, like, it's not going to stop me from doing videos or helping people or any of that nonsense. If people think that about me, they just, that's not me at all. Quitting is not really my thing, but it's this desire to, like you said, sort of bring everybody to the table and say, well, hey, we all can do better. And I'll tell you what, there's the expression, FOBO, fear of better options, but there is not just one answer sometimes. And that's something that kind of drives me nuts. When people just sort of dig in and it's, I have this and I'm like,
I'll say two things in response to that. First thing I will say is the only thing that bothers me about a naysayer and a comment is that they're casting doubts where there doesn't need to be doubt cast. And someone else may read that and say, oh, wait a minute. Again, kind of like what we're talking about before, the guy who knows every damn thing but doesn't know anything, or acts like he knows everything even if they don't, well-intended or not, it can cast doubt. The other thing I will say, I completely forgot. It just disappeared out of my head. But
while you think of it, let me say this. I'm happy to continue to educate the industry. I look forward to another 136 shows with you, John. I'm going to make more videos. I'm going to speak at more conferences. And listen, anybody that wants to have an engaging, nerdy discussion, I believe science is a process of debate, fact, experimentation, verification, all those fun things. So I love debate and discussion. I'll sit down and have a coffee with you anytime. Thank you to all of you who have shared the positive questions, the comments, the requests. And to those of you who maybe we're just not understanding each other, hey, let's give it a whirl. If you're just a hater, well, bring it on. So
I'll be your sponsor for the support group. How's that sound?
Yeah, I sort of made that like a nice big, sort of kumbaya moment.
We'll be each other's sponsors. When I get pissed off at somebody who says something I don't like, I'm going to say, Ben, I'm ready to attack this guy. And you'll say, no, back off, and vice versa. I'm kidding, of course.
Talk him off the cliff.
Truthfully, honestly, sometimes somebody says something and it burns my ass. It just burns my ass. I just, it makes me angry.
Let me say this. Neil deGrasse Tyson is obviously well known as a geek.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize he wrestled in college.
Did he?
He did. And at Harvard, now granted, Harvard is not known for their wrestling team near as much as they are for their astrophysicists, right. But this sort of brings us back to say, again, the 99% of you that are, just good-hearted people who want to do better, and learn and have good discussions. Awesome. The 0.5% of you that are sort of wavering, hey, let's have a coffee. And the last 0.5% of you that just want to fight, I was a wrestler. Let's do it. Let's set up a ring at Mobile Beat and let's just get right to it.
Well, I guess what I was getting at with that statement I made earlier about
at my age, I'd break a hip though. You know what? That'd be the sad thing.
It would be sad.
When somebody just rubs me wrong or I get angry or whatever. I've made a rule. I've made a deal with myself. If I'm going to say something to somebody, and I just feel this uncontrollable urge to go ahead and go on the attack, I'll walk away for a solid hour. I'll do something else. I'll work on the house. I'll do the dishes. I'll watch it. Better Call Saul. I'll do anything.
Bless your heart.
Back. And if I still feel the same way,
how I know why Bianca's kept you around?
Well, don't call her that.
No,
don't ever call her B. No, it's Blanca.
Oh, Blanca,
like Casablanca. Yeah,
not Casabianca.
Not no.
You're gonna confuse. You're gonna confuse us.
Yep. No, gotta go. Bye.
White in Spanish. No, but anyway, I just try to walk away and come back. And if I still feel the same way about it, I'll say it. But I never do. I'm always much calmer, or it's just not that important to me anymore. And that's not for you, Ben. That's just for anybody watching. That's how I handle it. I try to anyway, and I try to be cool. And no question is a bad question or a dumb question. Sometimes we've covered it, and you could take a little incentive and go check out the videos I produced. But 9 times out of 10, I'll just go ahead and smile and send you a link anyway. I'll Google it for you, because I appreciate you looking at me like somebody who can help you, because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help.
I love questions, and I love spirited, engaging discussions. I think we've kicked and beaten this horse the whole show about the difference. We love comments. Yeah. We love questions. We love suggestions. We even love positive criticism. But again, I think there's a difference, and anyway, like I said, we've beaten this horse every way but sideways.
You got to get it out, man. It's sometimes you just got to say it, and that's okay. That's what we did today.
I think the real challenge though is when you have the mean-spirited comments. There are words and phrases that are used that are not necessary in questions, constructive criticism. These are just not part of how you communicate a question, right? We all know the difference. When you're picking a fight, you're picking a fight, and when you make it personal, it's personal, And so I think the hard thing is when you even a tiny percentage of those, can get you worked up a little bit. And so, you respond to one of those, or I don't respond, honestly. I don't usually respond to those, but you see one, and then you see another question, and now you're kind of in that, like I said, if I seem a little intense today, I've been responding to a lot of questions, and that allows you to maybe misread somebody else's better intentioned question.
Yeah, it's distracting, and it's unfortunate that it is. Now, I know you like Star Wars a lot, and I'm okay with Star Wars.
I gave you that idea.
I typically dislike superheroes in general, but I really like a good Batman movie. I haven't watched Batman movies for a while.
I'm Batman.
But I loved The Dark Knight. I mean, I like the Michael Keaton stuff. And I really enjoyed the Christopher Nolan stuff. And the Joker and Heath Ledger, his swan song there, performance, which was fantastic.
Amazing performance.
He
Yeah.
was talking about just who he was, and I don't remember who said it in the movie, but somebody says some people just want to watch the world burn. And you know what? Some people do. They're just so incredibly narcissistic. They just want to see the world burn. And unfortunately, sometimes what they really want is a reaction from you. So when you react, you give them exactly what they want. If you ignore them like the twat they are, then they have a bad day. So,
to all of those, and it was only a handful, to be honest with you, but to those who sent messages that I deemed unuseful,
or constructive,
yes, and that I didn't respond to, and I left you hanging, and I didn't give you the reaction. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. Have a nice day.
Write something nice, and I'll respond. But in the meantime, I'm blessed to have thousands of people who write nice things or ask for help or product advice or pricing or whatever, and they're gonna get the best I have to offer. I'm not gonna waste my time with the other guys.
You are a wealth of information and appreciate it. And I never
doubted that, by the way. I want to say that just because I know some people are probably going, "Gosh, poor Ben." Oh, no.
No. It works on a guy. I mean, if this isn't something that you've been doing for your whole life, it works on you. And like I said, that's why I think Oprah's such a badass, because she let it all roll off her back, no matter what. I've never heard her
so long. That's the hard part, I think, is enduring it.
Yeah.
Gosh, this is 25 years in the industry for me, and probably as long for both of you. And it can be exasperating because you feel like you're sort of rehashing things at times. You want to save the world, but like you said, there's other people running around with a torch. So
I have a daughter, man, and she's really idealistic too. And I don't know how many times I've had to say to her, "Kid, we can't save the world. We can't help everybody. We got to focus on what we can do and how we can make a difference. But we can't beat ourselves up for not saving this one or not saving that one because we can't save the world." And it's true. Let's make a difference where we can and make an impact where we can and help who we can. I know it's more than a lot of people do.
I think that's a good spot to wrap.
Yeah, I think it's about that time. So thanks, viewers, for enduring it. I would have loved to have seen the chat during this.
You don't want to watch it.
I was watching it.
I didn't want to see it.
No, you don't want to watch
it. They were talking about other things, funnel cakes and stuff.
I like funnel cakes.
Yeah, you do like funnel cakes.
I have to believe Bill's in the chat if funnel cakes are being brought up. So.
No,
No.
We were chatting about all sorts of things. So. It was good. Right. It was good. So, thank you guys for being with us tonight. And for those of you wondering, the first half of talking about array systems, you can go back and click on the video in about 10 minutes after we finish, and you will be able to see that part of it because this wasn't that. We'll be back again tomorrow night with our Wednesday night shows. Thank you much for watching. Catch you later. Good night.